Hello and welcome to the second season of CNBC TV 18 and Lufthansa's All for This One Moment. I'm Shireen Bhan. Over the next 30 minutes or so, you're going to get to see a side of a leading Indian business personality that you've never really seen before. You're going to understand what motivates them, what drives them, what inspires them, and what's really made them who they are today. Before I bring out my guests for this evening, here's a quick glimpse into his success story.
Yogesh Chandra Deveshwar was born 1 year before India became independent. Armed with a degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Delhi and a diploma from Harvard, he joined what was then known as the Indian Tobacco Company in the year 1968. He has worked at ITC for the last 41 years. During this time, YC Deveshwar, or Yogi as he is known to his friends, has worked in virtually every arm of ITC. YC Deveshwar was appointed as a director on the board of ITC in 1984. Between the years of 1991 and 1994, he was on Lien to Air India as chairman and managing director. He then came back to ITC and became the chief executive and chairman of the board on January 1st, 1996. Under his leadership, the company has consolidated and strengthened its diversified businesses in hotels, paperboards and packaging. Deveshwar is the man who guided ITC's successful foray into new growth areas including agri-business, retail and distribution and branded FMCG goods. YC Deveshwar is a past president of the Confederation of Indian Industry and a member of the Board of Governors of the Indian School of Business.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the chairman of ITC, YC Deveshwar. Sir, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Shireen.
Right here. Okay, this is going to be a hard one because I know you hate talking about yourself, but I'm going to try anyway. Let me start by asking you, and this was a conversation that I had on a flight with the CEO of one of India's leading telecom companies, and he asked me about what my thoughts were on various CEOs, and he turned around and he said, to his mind, you were perhaps one of India's most underrated CEOs, that corporate India hadn't really understood and truly appreciated the value that you had brought not just to ITC but to India Inc. Would you agree with that?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank him for a charitable comment like that.
I'm not going to tell you who it was, but...
Well, but fine. You know, it would have been far worse if he had said that this guy is the most overrated guy in corporate India. So to that degree, I think I can live with the other one. Well, I suppose corporate India, see in ITC, the ethos that we are trying to develop is this, that you keep the country ahead of the company and company ahead of the individual. So part of it might be as a result of this relatively lower profile. You keep your position just behind that of ITC.
You know, an IIT graduate, did you actually think that this would be the path that your life and your career would actually take? Did you ever imagine that you would be sitting at the head of a conglomerate of the size and nature of ITC?
Well, when I passed out of IIT in 1968, the only thought I had on my mind was how to cease to be a parasite on my father's pension and begin to get a job, because those days there were very few jobs available. And what was on my mind was job. And I was lucky to get one. I was one of the luckier ones to get one.
So your family must have been thrilled. It doesn't matter cigarette company, no cigarette company, just thrilled with the fact that you actually had something to do.
That is actually not true, because my father worked for the government. And his aspiration for me was that I should appear for the IAS. And I actually did, you know, get myself books and so on and began to prepare for the IAS.
Did you take the exam?
No, I didn't take the exams. So I was preparing for that. And then this call came along. You know, this interview was held at the IIT campus. And I had left the campus and gone and was staying with my parents. And I learnt accidentally that there was going to be an interview, because we had applied for it when I was in college.
Right.
So I got hold of a scooter and I drove to the IIT campus. On the way, my scooter broke down. So by the time I landed up there, the interviews were over. And there was this placement officer, Air Commodore RHD Singh. and who was taking the gentleman, Mr. Keki Randeria, who was from ITC. He was taking him out for lunch. And he was emerging out of the door, Commodore Singh, and I went and accosted him. I told him, look, I'm so sorry, my scooter broke down, and I want to be interviewed. He said, no, the time is over, interviews are over, now it's too late. So I continued to persuade him that please look at my plight, you know, it was not my fault. So ultimately, Mr. Randeria, who was inside, heard this conversation.
Your pleas.
Yeah, please, whatever. So he came out and he said, no, I'll interview this young man. So he took me in, and I was so nervous. The first question he asked me was in the room, that why is this thing shaking? And I thought he was asking me a question on the theory of vibrations. So I quickly took a piece of paper and started describing to him how vibrations are caused. So he looked at me, and he was an ex-army officer. He looked at me, he said, I don't know what you're saying. I just want to know, why is this shaking? So I told him there's a compressor in the basement, which is making it shake.
So that got you the job, you think?
You know, then, you know, I was the only one. He, got through that interview. And subsequently, there were a couple of other interviews. Ultimately, I managed to get the job.
So would you say luck has played an important role in your career and your life?
I think luck, yes, I did. Because if I hadn't got there, if I had missed it by a moment, then I would be gone.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, a man who's actually worked with Y.C. Deveshwar very, very closely. We bring him out. He's going to be our surprise guest on All for This One Moment. So come back to us. You're watching CNBC TV 18.
Which of these initiatives did ITC undertake under Y.C. Deveshwar's leadership? A. Milk Revolution. B. Green Revolution. C. E-Chopal. SMS LH Moment space followed by option A, B or C to 51818 and win yourself a fabulous gift hamper from Lufthansa.
Welcome back. You're watching CNBC TV 18 and Lufthansa's All for This One Moment. We're in conversation with the chairman of ITC, Y.C. Deveshwar. It's time now for us to bring out a surprise guest, a special individual who's actually seen Y.C. Deveshwar evolve as an entrepreneur and as a business personality. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the former deputy chairman of ITC, Ramesh Sareen.
That's a great surprise. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Sareen.
Good.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Nice to meet you. Right here, sir.
Thank you.
So, how long since the last time you actually met with Mr. Sareen?
Well, a few months.
A few months?
Yes.
And you've been together, you worked for a period of about 1961 to about 1980. So 1969 to about 1981,
when I left
right?
ITC.
Yeah. So what was your first impression of him when you actually met him?
You know, it's 40 years now, and it's as fresh as it was yesterday. Well, my first impression was, you know, that, as you know, he's a tall fellow. And he had quite a personality. Over the years, of course, with his accomplishments, that personality has grown. But the first thing I observed was, whilst I was sizing up, I got the distinct impression that he was sizing me up too.
Really? Were you actually doing that? Were you sizing him up as he was sizing you up, Mr. Deveshwar?
No, I used to ape him and mimic him. And many people used to tell me that I've also developed his, posture and his speaking style and so on.
Did you notice
so
that?
I never questioned him.
Did you notice that
He was not compliant mediocrity in any case. That is very obvious. He liked a challenge. And there were moments, many moments, that you could see this challenge. He was also not particularly tolerant of inadequacy. Because I remember once, we had a swimming pool in Madras, and there was algae, this green sort of slime.
That's right.
In the filtration plant. So I asked Yogi, who was an engineer, and another member of management who was very slight of build, to fix this, which they did. And this other member of management, who was very slight, came and told me, "We done it." At which point Yogi told me the story of the elephant and the mouse who crossed the bridge. And the mouse said, "Didn't we shake the bridge?"
Was he an audacious 22-year-old? Because, you know, everybody says that he's one of the most audacious leaders that corporate India has seen. Would you say he was an audacious 22-year-old? Did you see that in him?
Audacious has many tones. He was combative, but he's combative in a very nice way. Very nice way. He was not disrespectful, but he was questioning.
Aggressive?
No, I didn't feel that aggression, but I certainly felt that he was questioning. You know, the normal was not acceptable.
Combative? Would you describe yourself as combative in a nice way, as Mr. Sareen has put it?
I've rarely questioned him. I would accept that.
Yeah?
Yeah. Even a little bit aggression also.
A little bit of aggression also. Okay,
yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Okay,
it's possible, but you know, he always sort of, you know, brought the sort of
brought you back to ground.
Got the edges sort of, you know, smoothened my edges. It shaped me right. And I owe a lot to him.
Okay, you know, Mr. Sareen, you've actually seen how the company has evolved under his leadership. He is now the longest serving chairman of ITC. What has really struck you about the manner in which he's gone on to diversify things, the manner in which he's gone on to consolidate leadership position in every area where they've diversified into?
See, one of the things that Yogi and I interacted on a great deal was the people resource. And he's always accused me of being too people-oriented. And he was not too well in Hyderabad once, and I went to see him. And he told me then, "You see, sir, it's all about strategy. Strategy makes the difference." And he's practiced it. I think he is going to leave a legacy behind in ITC. I think what he's done with the company shows itself. And I think he must be one of the top 5 achievers in this country today. And for me, it's a great honor to be here with a legend.
Well, that is something very, very sweet. Thank you so much, Mr. Sareen, for joining us on the show.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have you. On that note, it's time for us to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our unsung entrepreneur, and she gets a chance to meet with YC Deveshwar.
Which of these initiatives did ITC undertake under YC Deveshwar's leadership? A. Milk Revolution. B. Green Revolution. C. E-Chopal. SMS LH Moment space followed by option A, B or C to 51818 and win yourself a fabulous gift hamper from Lufthansa.
Welcome back. You're watching All for This One Moment on CNBC TV 18. We're in conversation with Yogi Deveshwar. And on that note, it's time for us now to capture that moment that we've actually been waiting for. It's time to actually meet our unsung entrepreneur and give her a chance to ask YC Deveshwar the question that she's always wanted to ask. Here's a story of Odette Mascarenhas.
Odette Mascarenhas started her own management consulting company, O&M, in 1997 in Goa after having worked for over 18 years with the Taj Group of Hotels. Her aim was to strengthen the service sector in Goa, which is the backbone of the tourism industry. This 12-year-old company earns revenues of about 30 lakhs a year with an employee strength of 6. Odette is passionate about the service sector and has also authored a book on India's first executive chef of the Taj, Miguel Arcanio Mascarenhas. She also hosts a TV series on food called Legacy of the Taste Buds on a local channel in Goa.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Odette Mascarenhas. Thank you for joining us, Odette. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. You get to take my seat.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Mr. Deveshwar, at the outset, let me tell you, I was really impressed with what all you said. You know, this has been mana for us entrepreneurs to try and do something. Now, there are few points which you brought in which sort of struck a chord, you know, in my thinking. You're talking about country before company. You're talking about the amount of social, work that you have been involved in. Now, if you're taking tourism, because hotels and we are in the tourism sector, in India, in many parts, India is not really tourism friendly. They do not, I'm sorry, I'm being very generalized in that, because the people do not understand, unlike Bali or Spain or even Istanbul, you know, people are inculcated with the idea that the tourists bring in the economy, they bring in the money into the country. Now, if we had to do something for India so that it creates a good image for the country, what would be your views to negate this negativity?
Now, India is a relatively poorer country. It is scarce of resources. So it is very difficult to spare the resource separately for tourism and separately for industry. So I was of the view that we should find those geographies in India where industry and tourism potential, industrial and tourism potential of a higher order. And if you could then choose those areas to build the infrastructure.
Okay.
And then have trained manpower and then develop a kind of a model destination and which then people can sort of replicate that culture over the rest of India. I agree with you. One of our problems is that if, say, there is a good monument, but there is no good road that takes you to the monument, or if there is a good road, then there are no facilities like toilets or whatever. And if those are there, then there is no good accommodation. Or if that is there, then, you know, it's not safe. So to get a number of things working together at the same time is the key to success in tourism.
Okay, so that's great advice, Odette.
Yeah.
Many thanks for joining us on the show. Don't go anywhere because we've got another surprise for the both of you. May I request Sangeeta Sharma from Lufthansa to come out and present a special memento to both our guests this evening.
It's a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here too. Yes, thank you.
Thanks a lot for being on our show. We just have a small present for you.
All right.
That's your own Airbus A380 with your name on it.
All right, all right. Now it's going to compete very well.
That a business class ticket to any destination in Europe for you.
Oh, thank you, Sangeeta.
Thank you very much. Congratulations,
I've got
Odette.
my own plane
I
to
think
fly
I'll
in,
join.
and you got
Got a
merely a
ticket.
I know, absolutely. So thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you, Mr. Deveshwar. Thank you, Odette. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We'll catch you again next week with another leading business legend. Till then, from all of us here on the show, goodbye and many thanks for watching. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.